Yeah, hi folks. It is now patently obvious that the Labour Party is rapidly taking New Zealand towards a separatist apartheid-style country, much the same as they rallied against back in the 70s and 80s. And Nanaia Mahuta, a radical separatist, is leading the charge on the back of her favourite horse.
Now, our obsession with tiny risks to our health is one way that we're becoming so fragile, but there's also a mind rot, and that's this woke culture. In fact, being woke is now a national security threat. And to prove it, let me introduce New Zealand's Foreign Affairs Minister, Nanaia Mahuta, as woke as they come and undermining our security. Now, as I've said before, New Zealand is selling out Australia and the West to keep sweet with the genocidal Chinese dictatorship, which is this big trade partner. Now, its trade minister last year even had the hide to tell Australia to show China more respect, although it's actually China punishing Australia for defending human rights. But its foreign minister, even worse. She is now even weakening the Five Eyes partnership. That's the intelligence sharing arrangement between great democracies, US, Britain, Australia, Canada, as well as New Zealand. Now, the other countries in this arrangement know that our greatest threat is China, and they know that if we're divided, we'll fall. China's a very big threat. Can't leave it to one country to resist that. It's got to be united. Yet when these other countries, the four, Australia, US, Canada, Britain, when we released a statement criticising China for arresting pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, Mahuta refused to sign that on New Zealand's behalf.
Yeah, and she touched on that the other day in her speech.
Oh no, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm saying that the Five Eyes has a particular remit, and to call on to expand the remit of the Five Eyes for other things, such as, for example, the position that we've taken in relation to Hong Kong expands the remit of what the Five Eyes was set up to do, and we're not prepared to do that.
You mean? And when the other Five Eyes countries criticised the World Health Organization report that simply whitewashed China's role in spreading the virus, maybe even creating it, Mahuta refused to join that too. And yesterday, she said, essentially, that the Five Eyes arrangement was now just Four Eyes. She said New Zealand was uncomfortable with expanding the remit of the Five Eyes in this way of criticising China. We would much rather prefer to look for multilateral opportunities to express our interests.
Yeah, and she's taken a lot of heat for that, and rightfully so.
She wants a bigger crowd around her before New Zealand puts its hand up. But that is essentially New Zealand leaving it to other democracies to fight for freedom, while it meanwhile sucks up rewards from China for being a good boy or girl. But I think woke culture is also to blame here, because let me now play you some of the speech that this foreign minister gave yesterday. Now, first, know this. Mahuta is actually from a privileged family. She went to an Anglican girls' boarding school. She studied social anthropology at university. How hip is that? She's got her facial tattoos, her mocha, only 5 years ago to show she was a Maori leader. It's the whole politics of racial identity. It just oozes from her.
Because she's a separatist.
Now, if you ask me, her speech yesterday hinted, at least to me, that New Zealand's foreign minister actually feels that confronting China is a white person's obsession. For her, there are wonderful similarities between the Chinese dragon and the taniwha.
Yes, pronounced correctly because taniwha is spelt wrong.
Of Maori mythology, which she cited as an inspiration.
When I think about this relationship, as referred to earlier, I liken it to the respect a taniwha would have for a dragon and vice versa. Taniwha are protectors or guardians often of water, and hold dominion over rivers and seas and lakes, lands and territories. Deeply steeped in culture, they are spiritual and one with nature. I see the taniwha and the dragon as symbols of the strength of our particular customs, traditions and values that aren't always the same, but need to be maintained and respected.
China respects us.
Foreign Affairs Minister Nanaia Mahuta says she's not sure if New Zealand has offended China, but a statement from the emerging superpower about removing the eyes of those who interfere with its business is strongly worded. The Five Eyes intelligence grouping, which includes New Zealand, Australia, Britain, the United States and Canada, released a joint statement calling for China to immediately reinstate recently fired members of Hong Kong's legislature. It also said the new rules, the changes, appear to be a concerted campaign to silence critical voices. A China Foreign Ministry spokesperson responded saying, quote, "If it doesn't matter whether they have 5 eyes or 10, if they dare to damage China's sovereignty, security and development, they should be careful or their eyes will be plucked out." Nanaia Mahuta believes our relationship with China is maturing, and that means we can talk about what we agree on and what we don't.
It is strongly worded, and those are China's words, not New Zealand's. New Zealand's words are advocating for the values and principles that we believe will create greater stability and peace, inclusion, upholding democratic principles that we know will actually help to strengthen our Pacific region, the Indo-Pacific region, and as we relate to the rest of the world.
Why do you think they came back with such strong language?
You'll have to ask them. What I do know is that New Zealand, when it's advocated on Hong Kong earlier this year around the UN, it was absolutely clear about our concern for the actions China were taking. And then its changeover of government, when I came in, I expressed a early concern and then made a decision if we were going to reflect on the many countries who had expressed concern around Hong Kong, then it made sense to join the Five Eyes statement.
But hold on. Just the other day she said Five Eyes didn't have a remit to interfere in Hong Kong. So which is it, Mahuta?
So is it a threat, that statement?
You know, words can be interpreted in many ways. What I would hope for New Zealand and
well,
China,
how do you interpret those words, Minister?
well, actions should follow words, and I'm not entirely sure that they have for New Zealand because New Zealand enjoys a respectful relationship with China.
Wow, somehow having our eyes plucked out is respectful.
What woke mystic babble?
Exactly. Now, how does that represent me? But nothing she does represents all New Zealanders. Now, this is a major foreign affairs speech that affects all New Zealanders. Now, see how Mahuta reacts to a question that was asked in English.
You recently spoke out against the treatment of Chinese minorities. What feedback have you had from that?
Yeah, well, ko te mea nui kia noho tūturu tātou nei tirohanga ki te āhuatanga o ngā iwi takitaki ki wāhi ki atu he uaua. He rereke a rātou nei ture, he rereke te ngā whakahaere o te kāwanatanga. Heoi anō, ko te mea matua, ko te aro pū ki au nei, kia whakamārama a mātou nei whakaro.
Yeah, no translation was given, nor any subtitles. So how does she represent me? Yeah, but she doesn't care about that because she's going to force te reo on all New Zealanders anyway.
young New Zealanders can learn te reo Māori, and I think that's an important step forward.
Would you like to see compulsory?
I think it's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's going to be when. And we.
Yeah, and te reo is not the only thing she's making compulsory.
So on the basis of local government leadership, councils really saying the time has come, local advocacy groups who want to ensure that there is Māori participation around the council decision-making table, I've announced today that the government will uphold its intention to introduce legislation to be able to remove the poll, the 5% threshold poll that can overturn local council decisions to establish Māori wards and constituencies.
Yes, and no one can object anymore. Just do it and shut up, she says. And now it's law. But don't be fooled, folks. This is all about filling the troughs with ratepayer money. Yeah, now as expected, our Maori separatists got their independent Maori health authority. And according to Stuff, Maori die 7 years younger than non-Maori, and which is largely caused by institutional racism, which of course will mean early pensions for Maori. Anyway, I've posted a link to that article in the description below.